Chapter 81 Nanbao Street. You are listening at novelfold.audio. We chose a courtyard to enter. Disciples, practice well. Zhang Yun didn't stay for 2 minutes before he spoke to the 3 disciples. Master, I went out to see if there are any good things, and I will buy them back for you to supplement them. After speaking, he slipped out of the courtyard without waiting for the 3 apprentices to respond. Wu Xiaopang was a little resentful. Master, it's true that he finally came out and didn't take me out for a walk. Seeing that Su Ming and Yu Shui'er didn't react when he heard this, he couldn't help but said, Senior brother, junior sister, don't you want to go out for a walk? Su Ming shook his head. Sitting cross-legged on the futon means that you want to practice. Yu Shui'er shook his head and walked to the pond in the backyard to play with the water. It means that instead of going out for a walk, it is better to play with water in the yard. Wu Xiaopang. Nanbao Street. Looking at the street gate in front of him with people coming and going, Zhang Yun touched his chin. Can the immortal master's sky eye be effective in this treasure hunting place? He had an idea after hearing the introduction from the elder of Nanhai Sect. He had found some good things in the South Mall before, such as the small formation plate that he had installed on Yun No. 1 as a gift. However, the Taobao on Nanbao Street is different from the Taobao in Nanshan Mall. Many of the things here are not actual objects that can already be seen. Tao here refers to digging out treasures from some ancient pebbles under the sea. In other words, it is gambling on stones. Under the vast sea area of the Blue Sea, there are countless treasures that have been sealed by the dust of time. It is said that thousands of years ago, under this Blue Sea was not a sea area, but a huge country. But it seems that it suffered drastic changes and was submerged by floods. After countless years of transformation, it gradually turned into such a huge sea area. These are all traceable, because a group of ancient buildings where humans have survived were discovered deep in the Blue Sea. It was also here that many treasures condensed into pebbles were discovered. Many of the pebbles on Nanbao Street in front of you come from the ancient buildings deep in the Blue Sea. Zhang Yun is not sure whether his immortal master's sky eye can work on such pebbles. If possible, then it is inevitable to have a good shopping. Walk into this bustling street with people coming and going. Oh my God, it's a water attribute spiritual stone. It took only 30 spirit stones to dig out a trench, but I found an attribute spirit stone, making a lot of money. Not long after he walked in, he heard a burst of exclamation next to him. It was a stall with many people surrounding it. Zhang Yun stepped forward out of curiosity. I saw a skinny middle-aged man, with a face full of surprise, holding a spiritual stone that was filled with water flow. Water attribute spiritual stone. Introduction. A spiritual stone that absorbs a large amount of water essence and contains a large amount of water aura energy, which can be of great help to water attribute. Monks, the immortal master's celestial eye jumped out with a message. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows. Attribute spirit stone is itself a spirit stone, but it has mutated due to the absorption of other attribute energy over time. Often the value of such mutated spiritual stones is hundreds of times that of normal spiritual stones. Well, any piece of it is worth hundreds of spirit stones. Spending 30 spiritual stones to dig up a water attribute spiritual stone is indeed a lot of money. Zhang Yun's eyes couldn't help but fall on the stall, where he saw pebbles of different shapes and sizes. Some of the pebbles had a different layer of special luster on the surface, as if there were special jade inside. Ordinary stone, ordinary stone, ordinary stone. After glancing over, Master Zhang Yun's heavenly eye also jumped out messages one after another accordingly. This made his eyes light up. It looks really good to watch. I quickly scanned the many pebbles on the stall carefully, and most of them were shown to be ordinary stones, but there was a stone with a blue light on the outside that gave a different answer. Water jade gravel. Introduction. It contains a certain amount of water attribute energy, but it has been broken, and the energy is less than 1% of the intact water jade. Gravel. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows, pointed at the blue-colored stone and asked the stall owner, how to sell this pebble. This Taoist has a friendly eye. The stall owner glanced at him after hearing this, and immediately smiled enthusiastically. The outer skin of this pebble is just a layer of water jade, and there is probably a complete water jade inside. If you want it, fellow Taoist, I'll give it to you with 1,000 spiritual stones. Zhang Yun rolled his eyes. Why don't you grab 1,000 spirit stones? Water jade is a rare water attribute spiritual jade, but a complete piece only costs about 1,500 spiritual stones. The piece of water jade gravel in front of me would be worth more than 10 or 20 spiritual stones. Of course, this was the premise that he knew it was just a fragment of water jade. Judging from the naked eye, this pebble does indeed look like a complete piece of jade inside. The stall owner saw that he seemed to be too expensive, so he couldn't help but said, "Friend Taoist, this pebble of mine is of excellent quality. 1,000 spirit stones are definitely worth it. If you don't believe me, ask everyone, where are pebbles of this quality found in other stalls? The price is at least 1,000, 200 or 300 spirit stones. Yes, with this kind of quality, there is a high probability that it is a complete piece of water jade. If it were any other stall, how could it be obtained without 1,000, 200 or 300 spiritual stones? Yes, this quality is definitely jade. The bet is whether there are any defects after cutting it inside. But even if there are defects, as long as it is not too big, you can definitely make money from 1,000 spirit stones. Isn't that right? If I hadn't been so short of money, I would have taken this pebble long ago." Others around him responded, "That look made me want to buy the spiritual stone right away." Zhang Yun rolled his eyes. Maybe some people here are just watching the fun, but some of them are definitely hired by the stall owners. Buying a jade fragment with 1,000 spirit stones is equivalent to a net loss of nearly 1,000 spirit stones. Zhang Yun didn't know how the stall owner got this pebble, but he must have known about the problem in advance, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to sell it here. But if you really want to sell it, you will earn nearly 1,000 spiritual stones every time. It is equivalent to half a year's salary of their Lingxian Sect elder. What a good deal. Zhang Yun didn't want to pay any attention to it, and was about to leave when his eyes suddenly caught a glimpse of a fist-sized pebble on the edge of the stall. Jingling Shark Jade, Introduction. The essence and blood of crystal sharks and water jade in the Nascent Soul Stage have been condensed for hundreds of years. It contains pure water aura, and the purity of the aura can be changed after refining and absorption. He looked shocked. What a good thing. The essence, blood and water jade of Yuanying stage spirit beasts have been condensed for hundreds of years. This kind of thing that can directly purify spiritual energy is extremely rare. Because the purity of aura is equal to the intensity of aura. When water attribute monks of the same realm compete for spiritual energy, the one with higher purity can often defeat the other party's spiritual energy, and even directly assimilate the other party's spiritual energy into its own energy. Why are some monks with special physiques so strong? It's because the purity of their spiritual energy is generally higher than that of ordinary monks. Taking a breath, Zhang Yun immediately pointed to the pebble. How much does this pebble cost? That when the stall owner saw him pointing at this ordinary pebble, he couldn't help but rolled his eyes, and his tone became less enthusiastic. 10 spiritual stones, take them if you want. Then I want it. Zhang Yun took out 10 spiritual stones. The stall owner looked better when he saw that he really bought it. Although there are only 10 spiritual stones, the pebble Zhang Yun pointed to looks very poor in color from the outside, and it is most likely empty inside. It's like he earned 10 spiritual stones for free, which is not bad. Do you want me to cut it for you? The stall owner picked up the pebbles and his attitude became better. Zhang Yun thought for a moment, nodded and said, cut it. That he also wanted to verify whether the immortal master's celestial vision was accurate. The stall owner immediately picked up the tools from the side and started cutting the stone. The people watching around were all in a lack of interest. This pebble is nothing at first glance. This kind of hollow stone is the most boring to look at. What they want to see is the kind of pebble that Che just said is worth thousands of spiritual stones, and there are treasures inside. Some people turned and walked away. The rest are better than nothing. Just take a look. I also want to wait and see if a boss will buy the pebble with thousands of spiritual stones and cut it on the spot. Many people come to Nanbao Street, not to gamble on stones, but just to join in the fun and see how others cut stones. In addition, sometimes you can pick up and miss, because from time to time there will be some novice stall owners who don't know much about it and go to the sea and fish for a good sum of pebbles from the sea. But because I have no experience, I don't understand the value. Some good quality pebbles are priced the same as ordinary pebbles. This is a good opportunity to pick up the slack. People often miss it like this. There must be nothing in this pebble, just cut it crosswise. That's right, don't waste time. Seeing that the stall owner had cut most of the pebbles into half, but no color was revealed inside, many people couldn't help but speak. The stall owner couldn't help but look at Zhang Yun when he heard this. Cut a little more along that side and take a look. Zhang Yun pointed to the corner of the pebble. Seeing this, the stall owner listened to him and started cutting. Everyone around rolled their eyes. You said there's nothing left, so we're still wasting time. You look like a novice at first sight. I suggest you read more before coming to Taobao. Many people spoke. Zhang Yun didn't say much, and stared calmly at the pebbles cut by the stall owner. The immortal master's heavenly eye only gave him information, but did not tell him the size of the treasure inside. Of course, it could also be that the immortal master's heavenly eye is wrong. But he didn't believe that the immortal master's heavenly eye would make mistakes. Stop cutting. At this moment, he suddenly felt something, his expression changed, and he quickly called the stall owner to stop. The stall owner paused and looked at him doubtfully. Give it to me, I'll take care of the rest myself. Zhang Yun stretched out his hand. The stall owner was speechless. This fist-sized pebble has been cut into only 1/3. It is almost certain that there is nothing left. Why are you still struggling? People around him also rolled their eyes. MD, 10 spiritual stone pebbles, do you need to be so solemn? That is to say, don't waste your time. You. I couldn't help but speak again, but I was halfway through my words. Buzz. I saw Zhang Yun pick up the tool and cut a slight horizontal slit. Like a ray of dawn in the darkness, a shining bright red light shot out from the slit and shone directly on the faces of the people who opened their mouths. Is shipping out? Everyone around was stunned, and then their eyes widened. Zhang Yun ignored them and cut through the edge of the stone. Soon, as the last stone fragments were shaken off, a crystal the size of an elixir, bright red with a slight blue luster, appeared in his hand, exuding a strong pressure. Under this pressure, the spiritual energy in many people around them stagnated slightly. This is. The stall owner's eyes suddenly widened. He stared at the red crystal stone in Zhang Yun's hand and exclaimed, Nascent Soul Stage. Water jade that is fused with the essence and blood of Yuanying stage spirit beasts. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was shocked. Fairyland Chapter 82 Taobao Competition. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Integrated with the essence and blood of the soul beasts in the Nascent Soul Stage, or is it water jade? Oh my God! How many spiritual stones is this piece of jade worth? 10,000. More than that. Nascent Soul Stage essence and blood fused with water jade, this is worth at least 20,000 spirit stones, right? Wow, 10 spiritual stones yielded a treasure worth 20,000 spiritual stones. The eyes of the onlookers turned green, almost overflowing with envy as they looked at the crystal spirit shark jade in Zhang Yun's hand. The stall owner was confused. In his eyes, an empty pebble that was of extremely poor quality and could not contain anything was actually filled with water jade that was fused with the essence and blood of the Nascent Soul Stage spirit beast. Thanks for the tools. Zhang Yun smiled slightly, handed the stone-cutting tool back to the other party, stood up and prepared to leave. A middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe suddenly stepped forward and asked, Fellow Taoist, do you want to sell this jade of essence and blood? I can give you 20,000 spirit stones. No, I'll keep it for myself for use. Zhang Yun shook his head and refused. This crystal spirit shark jade can purify water spiritual energy, and he wants to leave it to you Shuair. In addition, even if it were to be sold, this jade would cost far more than 20,000 spirit stones. To purify water spiritual energy, this effect alone costs at least 50,000 spiritual stones. The middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe in front of him clearly knew what he was selling. He quickly raised 3 fingers, 30,000 spiritual stones. Fellow Taoist, I can provide you with 30,000 spiritual stones. This jade is indeed useful to me. I won't sell it even if you pay 50,000 spiritual stones. I'm sorry. Zhang Yun waved his hand and left directly. The middle-aged man in Chinese robe had a look of regret. Everyone around him was stunned. This jade is actually worth 30,000 spiritual stones. The stall owner opened his mouth when he asked, feeling like he was about to cry, 30,000 spiritual stones. Such a treasure actually flew away under his hands like this. You know, his pile of pebbles could only be sold for a few thousand spirit stones. Boss, pack these pebbles for me. Boss, I want the 2 pebbles next to here. People around him came forward one after another at this moment, pointing to the openings of some pebbles on the edge of the stall that seemed to be of poor quality. There is such a treasure in this pile of pebbles, and there is no guarantee that there will not be another one among other pebbles. After all, these pebbles will appear on this stall owner's stall, and most of them should be fished from the same area under the sea. Not for sale. None of these are for sale. The stall owner also woke up after hearing this, immediately put away the stall and left with his arms in his arms. A treasure came out of his stall, and there might be more. If he comes out with another piece, he will make a fortune. The onlookers all spat when they saw this, secretly despising and feeling sorry at the same time. Zhang Yun, who had already left, paid no attention to this place. At this moment, he came to the second stall selling pebbles. Seeing 2 of the pebbles, Zhang Yun asked, "Boss, how can I sell these 2 pebbles? This 30 spirit stone, this 110 spirit stone." The stall owner responded, "Pack it for me." Okay. After spending 130 spirit stones, Zhang Yun took down these 2 pebbles without cutting them on the spot. He already knew what was inside with the eyes of the immortal master, a piece of ancient jade and a piece of fine iron. It is definitely far inferior to the previous crystal spirit shark jade, but it is still worth thousands of spirit stones. Zhang Yun discovered that Taobao on Nanbao Street is much better than Taobao in Nan shopping mall. The cost was 140 spiritual stones, and the treasure had already been exchanged for more than 50,000 spiritual stones. Behind this, Golu. Looking at the stalls in front of him, Zhang Yun couldn't help but swallow his saliva, and immediately began to search for valuable pebbles from the many stalls around him. Just as he started searching, many customers were welcomed into Nanbao Street, for example, the elders and disciples of Lingxian Sect. Although the sect leader had given instructions, they were still a little curious about this famous Nanbao Street. Even the great elder of Lingxian Sect couldn't help but come here at this moment. Also arriving at the same time were many elders and disciples of the Nanshan Sect. They had just arrived at Nanbao Island and were equally curious about Nanbao Street. Just as the 2 elders of the 2 sects entered Nanbao Street one after another, in a luxurious loft in Nanbao Street, the elegant-looking elder of the Nanhai sect was chewing an apple and looking at the crystal ball in front of him with a smile. The picture in the crystal ball is showing the people of Lingxian Sect and Nanshan Sect entering Nanbao Street. It's been half an hour. Those who haven't come will most likely not come. That the elder of Nanhai Sect took a bite of the apple and said while chewing, "Lao Wu, go kill a bunch of fat sheep." Okay, big brother. That the 5th elder of the Nanhai Sect, who had a scar on his face, walked out of the side room, glanced at the crystal ball and curled up his mouth. My previous trip to the southern region made me feel a lot angry. Today, from the elders of the 2 major sects in the south should cut more flesh on their bodies to relieve their anger. After all, there are 2 major sects, don't go too far, that the elder of Nanhai Sect said calmly. Don't worry, brother. I'm measured. That the 5th elder of Nanhai Sect walked out the door with a smile. This guy still can't change his pirate habits. That the elder of Nanhai Sect shook his head slightly. Although their Nanhai Sect is an immortal cultivating sect, they started out as pirates. The reason why it has developed to this point now is to do everything possible to collect money and obtain cultivation resources from all parties. This Nanbao Island is one of their main sources of wealth. Dear fellow Taoists, good afternoon. In Nanbao Street, Zhang Yun had just finished searching another stall and was about to go to the next stall when he suddenly heard a sound that echoed up and down Nanbao Street. With an eagle cry, a large white-haired eagle nearly 3 meters long suddenly appeared in the sky above Nanbao Street. Standing on the back of the big eagle was a middle-aged man with a scar on his face, who was the 5th elder of the Nanhai Sect. He was holding a loudspeaker stone in his hand. Welcome to Sapphire Street. Our sect has recently collected a large number of fine pebbles from the depths of the blue sea, and is preparing to hold a Taobao competition on this sunny day. Damn it, why are you suddenly doing this today? Go, go, go. Hearing this, the expressions of many people who were still shopping on Sapphire Street changed, and they turned around and wanted to walk out of Sapphire Street, but the exits around the street were already occupied by many Nanhai Sect disciples. Damn it, I really didn't read the almanac today. It's over, don't talk about the hundreds of spiritual stones this time. That looking at the pale passers-by around him, Zhang Yun was a little confused. Taobao competition. He raised his eyes and looked at the scarred face of the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect in the sky, and raised his eyebrows slightly. At that time, I heard the other party's voice at the South Mall auction, and now I can finally see the other party's appearance clearly. In view of the fact that some fellow Taoists are not familiar with it, I would like to explain the rules of this Taobao competition, that the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect stood on the back of an eagle and talked. Taobao, as the name suggests, is a comparison of your Taobao abilities. It adheres to the principle of universal participation. Every fellow Taoist who comes to Nanbao Street, you are all part of this contestants of the competition. Now, please accept the participation stones prepared by our sect members. As he finished speaking, a large number of Nanhai sect disciples wearing the standard blue and white striped shirts with a Nanhai badge on their chests were seen pouring out from all over Nanbao Street. These disciples held buckets of token-shaped stones in their hands and handed them to everyone along the street. Zhang Yun also got a piece with the number 39 engraved on it. After looking carefully, I found that the token-shaped stone seemed to be a video stone. First of all, congratulations to the Taoist friends who are among the top 50 on the stone. You have become the lucky ones in this Taobao competition. A few minutes later, after everyone on the street had received similar token stones, the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect in the air spoke at the right time. Lucky one. Zhang Yun was startled when he heard this and looked at his number 39 foot, which seemed to be one of them. 50 lucky fellow Taoists, you have got priority and an additional chance to choose pebbles. The fifth elder of the Nanhai sect said loudly, now let me explain the specific rules. The competition stone in your hands is polished with a video stone. It can be opened by inputting spiritual energy. It records all the pebbles prepared by our sect for this Taobao competition. Actual image. All participating Taoists must choose a pebble from it. As for the lucky Taoist friends, you can choose 2 pebbles for the competition. Each pebble has a number in the image. Select the pebble you like and use spiritual energy to engrave the corresponding number on the participating stone. After the selection is completed, our sect the corresponding pebbles will be presented to you, and we will cut them open on the spot to see if there are any treasures. Finally, the ranking will be directly assessed based on whether there are treasures in the pebbles selected by fellow Taoists and the value of the treasures. After a pause, the fifth elder of Nanhai sect glanced at the people on the street and said with a smile, the fellow Taoist who wins first place in the end will receive a reward of 10,000 spirit stones provided by our sect. As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of everyone present from the Lingxian sect and Nanshan sect lit up. 10,000 spirit stones is a lot. But the vast majority of the monks on the street were dejected at this moment, as if they had suffered great misfortune, and were not at all happy about this reward. Zhang Yun looked a little strange. This Taobao competition sounds great. Nanhai sect has prepared a batch of pebbles for everyone to choose from for the competition. If you get the first place, you will get a high reward. Buzz. At this time, the competition stone in his hand suddenly lit up with a light. On Sapphire Street, there are 49 other participating stones that also light up at the same time. The fifth elder of the Nanhai sect said, for those of you who are lucky enough to be in the top 50, your entry stones have been lit up. You can now enter your spiritual energy to view the pebbles and make your selection. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows slightly and injected a hint of spiritual energy. At the same time, on the street, the elders and disciples of Lingxian sect and Nanshan sect, the competition stones in their hands were all shining, and they all looked happy when they heard this. Unexpectedly, when they went shopping, they turned out to be the lucky ones. The people around them rolled their eyes when they saw their happy expressions. They understood that this was another group of tourists who didn't know anything. Seeing that the elders and disciples of the two sects were all dressed up in extraordinary ways, many people on the street immediately understood why the Nanhai sect suddenly held a Taobao competition. It was definitely to kill these people. Approval of fat sheep. I pity them, why are they here at this time? Zhang Yun didn't pay attention to the gazes of others around him. At this moment, he looked at the image emerging on the competition stone and scanned it carefully with the immortal master's heavenly eye. There are more than 2,000 pebbles in the picture, many of which are similar to the first stall he saw before, which showed the surface of jade gravel on the pebbles. Zhang Yun saw a lot of this kind of pebbles while walking around, and it made him understand that this kind of pebbles should be artificially modified. Some scraps of precious jade are deliberately embedded on the pebbles to attract people, so as to sell them at a high price. Maybe some of them are natural, but Zhang Yun has not seen them yet. Nearly half of the more than 2,000 pebbles in the picture are of this type. Zhang Yun glanced over with the immortal master's heavenly eye, and all they saw were rubble. This made him a little confused. As the overlord of this place, the Nanhai sect should know the shady secrets of this type of pebbles. Why do they still put so many of them in this Taobao competition? Is it to test your eyesight? Not quite understanding, Zhang Yun glanced at the ones that didn't have broken jade on the surface, but found some things in them, but most of them were not of high value. But when he saw one of the pebbles, his expression was suddenly shocked. Chapter 83 The Shameless Nanhai Sect. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Water Dragon Crystal Core, Introduction. The crystal core of the water dragon, a Yuanying stage spirit beast. 20% of the energy in the crystal core has been absorbed. Spirit shell, introduction, a shell that can contain souls. The shell currently contains a remnant soul of a young dragon. It relies on absorbing part of the energy of the water dragon crystal core to maintain its existence and is temporarily in a dormant state. Crystal core of a Yuanying stage spirit beast. Zhang Yun was shocked, but was slightly startled when he saw the second message. What does it mean? Does it mean that there are two things in this pebble? It seems to be true after reading the introduction. Remnant soul of a young dragon. Absorbing the energy of the water dragon crystal core. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows. This young dragon, does it mean the remnant soul of a young dragon? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but take a breath. If it is true, then this remnant soul is of great significance. After all, it means that it was a real dragon in its lifetime. 162, looking at the number of the pebble, Zhang Yun immediately used his spiritual energy to input the corresponding number into the recording stone in his hand, not to mention the remnant spirit of the young dragon. The crystal core of the Yuanying stage spirit beast alone must be taken. If you want to get a crystal core of a Yuanying stage spirit beast on weekdays, you can only hunt Yuanying stage spirit beasts, which few people in the entire Nanyuan province can do. After choosing this pebble, he became a little worried. Now this is the pebble for the competition. After cutting it, the things inside will not be taken back by the Nanhai sect, right? Zhang Yun hesitated, but after thinking about it, he shook his head and took the pebble in front of him first. He continued to scan the remaining pebbles in the picture, and soon saw some item information, but they were all relatively ordinary. Finally, after scanning a circle, in addition to the selected one, there were only two pebbles with more valuable things. One pebble contained a dragon tooth, which was an excellent material for making spiritual tools, and another pebble was a rare record jade slip. This kind of record jade slip can record various text information. It is relatively rare in the Xiandao continent today. It is an ancient artifact that cultivators often used thousands of years ago. Generally speaking, it will be used by cultivators to record some secret techniques. Combined with the history of the Blue Sea, since this pebble was brought out from it, this jade slip is likely to be cultivated by an ancient cultivator. It may record a high-level technique. In short, the value must be high. Can I choose a few more pebbles? He wanted both pebbles, and couldn't help looking up and asking the fifth elder of the Nanshan sect in the air. As soon as this was said, the whole Nanbao street was quiet for half a second, and the people around him looked at him with a look of surprise. Zhang Yun frowned slightly. Is this question strange? The fifth elder of the Nanhai sect in the air grinned. Dao, you can choose more. As a lucky person, you have the right. However, considering the large number of contestants, the number of pebbles is limited. As lucky Dao Yu, each person can only choose 5 pieces at most. As he said this, he deliberately glanced at the lucky people of Lingxian Sect and Nanshan Sect who were also choosing stones. When the people of the 2 sects heard his words, their expressions were all happy. It would be best if you can choose more. Others on Nanbao Street couldn't help but twitch their mouths when they saw this scene. Some of them couldn't bear to speak, but they were glared at by the monks of Nanshan Sect around them, so they shut their mouths. Zhang Yun noticed this scene and felt strange. Since the beginning of the Taobao competition, most of the monks on Nanbao Street were very abnormal, but he saw that there seemed to be nothing wrong with this competition. Isn't it just picking a pebble to dig up and see the treasure, and compare with each other? Without thinking too much, Zhang Yun directly picked the 2 pebbles he wanted. In addition, he could pick 2 more pebbles. He didn't choose those with treasures, but randomly picked 2 empty pebbles. After all, if all 5 pebbles contain treasures, it would be too suspicious. In mid-air, the 5 elders of Nanhai Sect couldn't help laughing when they saw Zhang Yun choose 5 pebbles, especially when they saw the elders and disciples of Lingxian Sect and Nanshan Sect also choose multiple pebbles. The smile in their eyes became more intense. Looking at Zhang Yun, he was quite satisfied. He didn't know Zhang Yun, but he knew that he was an elder of the Lingxian Sect. Just now, he was thinking about how to get the elders of the 2 sects to choose more pebbles, and Zhang Yun spoke. If he was not sure that he had not arranged it, he would have suspected that Zhang Yun was a person he had arranged in advance. Choose 5 pebbles one by one. The 5 elders of the Nanhai Sect thought to themselves, smiling happily. After the 50 lucky ones finished their selection, it was soon the turn of the others present to choose. And these people's choices were almost snatched to choose those pebbles without jade surface. Zhang Yun looked at it and raised his eyebrows slightly. These people who have been hanging around in Nanbao Street for many years seem to be more experienced. They know that this kind of pebbles with jade surface are artificially processed and are not good things. After everyone finished their selection, a group of Nanhai Sect disciples immediately took the pebbles into the street and began to distribute them according to the numbers. Here are the pebbles you chose. A young female cultivator from the Nanhai Sect came to Zhang Yun and took out 5 pebbles enthusiastically. Do you have any questions? Yes, these 5. After a glance, Zhang Yun nodded. Then he heard the other party suddenly start to quote, Number 162 pebble, worth 500 spiritual stones. Number 199 pebble, worth 800 spiritual stones. Number 1033 pebble, worth 600 spiritual stones. Here are 5 pebbles, a total of 3,300 spiritual stones, please pay. Zhang Yun was stunned when he heard this. I want to buy it. Yes, the young female monk nodded politely. Once the selected pebble is determined, it cannot be returned. You must pay for it. This is the rule of our Taobao competition. Zhang Yun glanced around and found that the people around him were taking out spiritual stones to pay with pained expressions on their faces. Some of them noticed him and gave him sympathetic looks. Obviously, you who chose 5 pebbles will be deceived. This made him understand immediately. No wonder people around him were crestfallen at the beginning when they heard that this Taobao competition was going to be held. Now once you select the pebbles, they cannot be returned and you must pay to buy them. This Taobao competition is completely a forced buying and selling. The most important thing is the price of these pebbles. According to the price quoted by the young female monk in front of him, the cheapest one of the 5 pebbles in front of him is worth 500 spirit stones. Although it is worth it in his eyes, judging from the appearance and quality of these pebbles, it is already expensive to sell 100 or 200 spiritual stones at the stalls selling pebbles around. Zhang Yun also understood why people around him were rushing to get rid of the jade-faced pebbles. It's not that they are sure that there is no stock in it, but if they buy pebbles with jade surfaces, the price will definitely be much higher than ordinary pebbles. What do you mean? I didn't say that I wanted to buy these pebbles. Isn't this a competition to choose pebbles? What does it mean that we have to spend money to buy them? And the price? Just these few broken stones, together they cost me 9,000 souls. Stone. The sounds that sounded in the streets at this time also confirmed this for him. Looking over, I saw the 3rd elder of the Nanshan Sect holding a few jade-faced pebbles and glaring at a Nanhai Sect disciple in front of him. That's it. This is obviously a pebble selection competition, why should we buy this pebble? That the other elders of Nanshan Sect also agreed after hearing this. The elders of the Lingxian Sect didn't say anything, but at this time they all looked up at the 5 elders of the Nanhai Sect with furrowed brows. This made them have to spend spirit stones to buy it. Isn't it forceful buying and selling? Fellow Taoists, what are you doing? That the 5th elder of the Nanhai Sect seemed to have anticipated everyone's reaction, and asked calmly, you have participated in the competition, do you want to disobey the rules? That an elder of the Nanshan Sect couldn't help but say, you never mentioned this rule before it started. Everyone on Nanbao Street knows this rule. Don't you know and won't ask? The 5th elder of Nanhai Sect sneered and said, the most important thing is, has anyone forced you to participate before? Since you have participated, you must abide by the rules. Nanhai Sect, don't go too far. The Nanshan Sect elders were angry. The elders of Lingxian Sect did not want to agree with Nanshan Sect, but they all looked gloomy. Understand that this so-called Taobao competition is completely a game set by Nanhai Sect, the purpose is to trap their spiritual stones. Facing the golden elixir stage auras of the 2 elders, the 5th elder of the Nanhai Sect was not afraid. Snort, that at this time, only a cold snort was heard, and a Nascent Soul Stage aura suddenly swept across the entire Nanbao Street, and the auras of the 2 elders were suppressed in an instant. Nascent Soul Stage. The expressions of the elders of both sects changed, a deep voice was heard, fellow Taoists, although you are guests, you cannot be so presumptuous. The sound was so coercive that the elders of both sects sank down, and their faces turned pale for a moment. Great Elder Nanhai, what makes you so angry? That at this time, a voice came, blocking the pressure for everyone in Lingxian Sect. Metropolitan, that everyone in the Lingxian Sect looked happy, the one who spoke out was the leader of the Lingxian Sect. Great Elder Nanhai, you have something to talk about. There is no need to be so angry. Another voice came, which relieved the pressure on everyone in the Nanshan Sect. It was the leader of the Nanshan Sect, the Nanhai Sect elder who released his pressure said calmly, 2 sect masters, I remember that you are guests and have tried my best to entertain you. However, when your sect elders and disciples participated in the competition organized by our sect, you were unwilling to follow the rules and openly provocation. Why do the 2 sect leaders think our sect is easy to bully? That the masters of Lingxian Sect and Nanshan Sect were both slightly silent. Since it is the rule of Nanhai Sect, my sect elders and disciples will never violate it. That the leader of Lingxian Sect spoke calmly, the head of the Nanshan Sect also said calmly, since you have participated, the elders and disciples of our sect will follow the rules. Upon hearing the words of the 2 sect leaders, the faces of the elders and disciples of the 2 sects turned pale. Does this mean they have to pay for these pebbles? Thank you to the 2 sect masters for being so reasonable. 5th elder, just do whatever you want, that the elder of Nanhai Sect said lightly, and then his breath disappeared. The auras of the masters of Lingxian Sect and Nanshan Sect also disappeared. Do you fellow Taoists still have any objections? That the 5th elder of Nanhai Sect immediately looked at everyone with a smile. The elders of the 2 sects looked ugly, but they still took out the spirit stones. Zhang Yun also paid. At this moment, he somewhat understood what the leader of the Lingxian Sect had told him before, that the Nanhai Sect was shameless, as the strongest sect in Nanyuan Prefecture. There is no one else who would use this kind of competition as a guise to buy and sell by force. But this might not be a good thing for him. After all, if it is provided for free, then who owns the thing cut out of the pebble? With the rogue attitude shown by Nanhai Sect, Zhang Yun was sure that they would take over. Now that he has spent the spirit stone, this pebble is undoubtedly his. These 5 pebbles are mine, right? Zhang Yun looked calmly at the young female monk in front of him, the latter smiled and nodded, this is natural. Then give it all to me. Zhang Yun stretched out his hand, the young female monk was startled, aren't you going to compete? If you want to continue competing, I need to cut the stones. No. Zhang Yungang wanted to nod, but after thinking about it, he changed his mind, you only need to cut 2 pebbles to compete, right? Then you cut the 2 pebbles numbered 199 and 1033, and give me the remaining 3, and I will take them back and process them myself. Okay, that the young female monk nodded and handed him the remaining 3 pebbles. Zhang Yun directly put the storage ring into his pocket and watched as the young female monk began to cut the stone. His eyes couldn't help but glance at the 5th elder of Nanhai sect above, who was smiling proudly. Trap his spiritual stone. It's not that easy. I just paid 3,300 spirit stones, so let's return the bonus of 10,000 spirit stones. What he asked the female monk to cut were the 2 pieces containing the dragon's teeth and the jade slips containing records. He had scanned all the pebbles before, and there was nothing in them that was worth more than these 2 things. Chapter 84, Mysterious Sound. You are listening at novelfold.audio. However, the most valuable one is the pebble numbered 162 that he put away. The value of the crystal core of the Nascent Soul Stage spirit beast is enough to kill everyone present in an instant. But in case the Nanhai sect found out that the Nascent Soul Stage spirit beast crystal core would be shamelessly snatched away, he chose to take it back and cut it himself. With these 2 pebbles in front of me, getting first place is enough. In Nanbao Street, the hearts of the elders of the 2 sects were bleeding at the moment. They don't have Zhang Yun's immortal master's eyes, so they only choose pebbles with jade surfaces. In their opinion, these pebbles 80% contain treasures. But the prices given by Nanhai sect for this kind of pebbles are also ridiculously high. Even the cheapest piece costs up to 1,500 spirit stones. Each elder of the 2 sects has spent nearly 20,000 spiritual stones per person. Because in addition to themselves, there are also the disciples they brought. The disciples don't have so many spiritual stones to pay. As masters, they can't ignore it and can only grit their teeth and dig out the spiritual stones. Some elders did not bring enough spiritual stones, so they had no choice but to use some of their treasures to pay for the spiritual stones. Among them, the worst one is Mengzhong. It was barely enough to hold most of the things on my body, including the accessories, together. Thinking about it, he couldn't help but angrily glared at Zhang Yun in the direction of the street. If it weren't for the other party, he wouldn't be so strapped for money. The 50,000 spirit stones from the last Nan Shang Mall auction were given to him by that adult to bid for the essence and blood of the golden sea dragon. He didn't take the blood essence, so he returned it as soon as he returned to the sect. For this, he paid an extra 10,000 spirit stones to prevent the master from censuring him. Later, in the disciple competition, he lost to Zhang Yun in a bet with more than 6,000 spirit stones. He had very few spiritual stones left. Now that this happened, he had no spiritual stones and could only spend all his money. At the moment, he can be said to be poor, but what comforted him a little was that at least Zhang Yun was also cheated. And, looking at the Nanhai sect disciples who were cutting pebbles in front of him, he took a deep breath. He still has a chance to earn back his spiritual stones, or even make a fortune. He and his disciples selected 10 pebbles in total. Each pebble had a jade surface, and there was a treasure inside. If the 10 pebbles were all complete jade, then he would not only be able to make back his capital with profits, but also make an extra sum, plus the 10,000 spiritual stones that might lead to first place. Thinking about it, the corners of Meng Zhong's mouth couldn't help but curl up. Today may be the day he gets rid of his bad luck since the apprenticeship ceremony. Other elders present also had similar thoughts. I've spent all my spiritual stones, now I'm looking forward to this gambling stone. In mid-air, looking at the hopeful expressions of the elders of the 2 sects, the 5th elder of Nanhai sect had a sneer on his lips. Big profit? Stop dreaming. You are fat sheep, only destined to be slaughtered. These jade-faced pebbles were not clear to others, but he was clear about them. Because these are artificially processed by their Nanhai sect, and are 100% just gravel. Not only that, the jade-faced pebbles circulating in the market on Nanbao Street were basically given to these stall owners secretly. It can be said that almost 99% of the jade-faced pebbles on Nanbao Street are fake. Occasionally, it is cut off for shipment, and that is a special arrangement they made to facilitate shipment. As for the pebbles without jade surfaces in this Taobao competition, it is even more impossible to ship them. Because before these pebbles were taken out, they had been appraised by their Nanhai sect's internal appraisal master. Although there is no guarantee of 100% accuracy, there is a high probability that there will be no good stuff. There is also the 10,000 spirit stones awarded in this competition. The fifth elder of Nanhai sect glanced at everyone present and sneered secretly, no one can get it. Because he had already arranged it, and let the person he arranged to pick out the pebbles that were sure to contain something as soon as possible. The one who will win first place in the end will only be his. No need to pay the bonus, net profit from spiritual stones. In this wave of Taobao competition, Nanhai sect master can earn hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones. It's a pity that it can't be held often, otherwise no one will dare to hold activities on Nanbao Street. It's shipped. Just as he was thinking about it, a voice suddenly sounded from below. The fifth elder of the Nanhai sect looked over and curled his lips. He was the one who arranged it. I saw a skinny man on the street holding a piece of red jade with a face full of surprise. Blood spirit crystal. It's blood spirit crystal. Oh my God. Is this such good luck? The most common value of the blood spirit crystal is at least 2,000 spirit stones. You can actually find something like this in the Taobao competition. This guy has a chance to win first place. People around him were filled with envy when they saw it. Zhang Yun was slightly surprised when he saw this. When he was scanning before, he didn't find such a pebble hiding the blood spirit crystal. It seems that the pieces were already chosen at that time. He thought for a moment. When he was scanning before, other lucky ones were also picking with him, and there were several pieces that had been chosen before he even had a chance to look at them. This blood spirit crystal should be one of them. What a pity. Zhang Yun shook his head secretly. This is. At this time, the young female monk's startled voice suddenly came to my ears. Zhang Yun looked over and saw that a section of milky white was exposed among the pebbles he had cut for him, and he could feel the cold aura emanating from it. He immediately said, cut it bit by bit along the edge. The young female monk nodded and couldn't help but secretly swallow her saliva, just exposing a part of the surface. It exudes such an aura. The thing inside the pebble must be an extraordinary treasure. She didn't expect that she could actually cut such a thing, and her hands were shaking for a while. Zhang Yun didn't care. This dragon tooth is very hard. Even if the opponent resists 100 or 80 cuts, it will not be damaged. However, this young female cultivator is still very professional. Her hands are shaking, but the knife is not shaking. She cuts the pebble layer neatly along the surface of the dragon tooth. Soon, a sharp tooth as thick as an arm and half the length of an arm appeared. Oh my God! The young female cultivator couldn't help but exclaimed. This exclamation immediately attracted the attention of many people in the field. In the air, the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect was smiling and scanning the streets. Those people who cut the pebbles and found that they were empty stones were depressed. No surprise. In his opinion, the blood spirit crystal he arranged will definitely be the first. Now they just wait for everyone to finish cutting the pebbles. Thinking of his eyes, he couldn't help but look at the two elders present. Seeing their ugly faces because of the broken jade, and sweating and extremely nervous because of watching the pebble being cut bit by bit, he couldn't help laughing. You guys may be high and mighty in your own sects, but here, you can only be a gambler who is cheated and knows nothing. He was thinking with a sinister smile, and suddenly heard the exclamation of a young female cultivator in his ear, which made him frown and look over. This glance made the smile on his face freeze. Is that the tooth of a spirit beast? You can feel the breath from such a distance. What level of spirit beast is this? Nascent Soul Stage. This breath is the tooth of a spirit beast in the Nascent Soul Stage. Looking at the dragon tooth in the hands of the young female cultivator, there was an exclamation around. There were also people who knew what was good. A middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe exclaimed, Dragon tooth. This is the tooth of a dragon in the Nascent Soul Stage. What, a dragon? A dragon with dragon blood? It's in the Nascent Soul Stage. Oh my God. Wow, it's a big deal. That when these words came out, the people around him went crazy. What is the most precious spiritual beast? You just need to remember one sentence: anything related to dragons is precious. The dragon, also known as the half-dragon in the Xiandao continent, is the type of spiritual beast with the most dragon blood. Every inch of the dragon's body, from head to tail, even if it is just the most ordinary scale, can be worth a lot of spiritual stones. It's nothing else, it's stained with the half-dragon breath of the dragon, and the dragon's teeth, that's even more so. If it is made into a spiritual tool, if it is combined with some beast spirits with dragon blood as the tool spirit, there is even a chance that the spiritual tool will be accompanied by some tool skills related to dragon talent. Such a tooth is worth at least tens of thousands of spiritual stones. How is it possible that the 5 elders of Nanhai sect were full of disbelief in the pebbles that were taken out of the Taobao competition, which could be said to be waste stones? There was such a good thing. He couldn't believe it. The elders of the 2 sects on the street below heard the noise and were attracted to it. When they saw the dragon's tooth, their eyes were straight. And when they saw Zhang Yun standing next to them, they were silent. The elders of Nanshan sect all looked ugly. How could this bastard who killed many elders of their sect be so lucky? The elders of Lingxian sect had complicated expressions. They found that some good things that happened recently always happened to Zhang Yun. Why is this bastard so lucky? Meng Zhong gritted his teeth. Originally, he felt good when he saw Zhang Yun was also cheated. At least this bastard finally didn't take advantage of him again. But now, why? Why is Zhang Yun's luck always so good? He had already cut 3 pebbles, but there was nothing left. There were only 3 jade fragments on the surface, which were worth less than 50 spirit stones in total. Zhang Yun, on the other hand, cut a pebble and directly, the dragon tooth of the Nascent Soul Stage. He was so jealous that he was going crazy, and couldn't help but urge the Nanhai sect disciple in front of him, cut the rest quickly. Ignoring the eyes of the crowd, Zhang Yun looked at the dragon tooth that was half the size of his arm and nodded slightly. The whole dragon tooth was extremely complete, as if it had just been pulled out of a dragon. Keep cutting. He immediately glanced at the young female cultivator in front of him who was still in a daze. The latter reacted and hurriedly cut the second pebble. The second pebble was smaller, less than the size of a fist, and it was quickly cut into half. The people around him didn't care when they saw it. What good things could such a small pebble have? They just looked at the dragon tooth in Zhang Yun's hand, and their eyes were full of envy. The face of the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect in the air was a little ugly. He had never expected that such a good thing could come out of a pile of waste stones, and this also disrupted his deployment. After all, no matter how precious the blood spirit crystal is, it is at most 3,000 spirit stones. And this dragon tooth of the Nascent Soul Stage, no matter how bad it is, it must cost tens of thousands of spirit stones. In this case, the reward of 10,000 spirit stones must be given out. No. The bonus cannot be given away in vain. Thinking of this, he scanned the field, but just halfway through. My God, this is... Suddenly, the exclamation of the young female cultivator came to his ears. The 5th elder of the Nanhai sect and everyone present looked over again. A trace of jade was clearly exposed in the cut pebbles in the hands of the young female monk. As she shook off the scraps of stones, a complete jade slip suddenly came into view. Why are you learning from me? You said I learned from you. It's obviously you who is learning from me. No, it should be said that you are me, and I am you. I and you are one body, separated into 2 bodies, and become the dharma of these 2 bodies. That the moment the jade slip was exposed to the air, it suddenly emitted an ancient mysterious sound. This made everyone's eyes widen. Chapter 88, Attacked in the Middle of the Night. You are listening at novelfold.audio. It is the Yuntian sword. This was once an intermediate spiritual weapon, but it was severely damaged. The weapon spirit was destroyed, and the sword body was also damaged to a certain extent. Zhang Yun said and looked at the young dragon Remnant. Can you penetrate this sword? Try this dragon, that the young dragon Remnant spirit said and rushed into the sky sword, but this time the speed slowed down, and it was obvious that it had just been frightened. Soon, Zhang Yun heard a voice coming from the Yuntianjian sword body. This sword has no weapon spirit, and this dragon can be in it. But its material is a bit special, and it doesn't match the properties of this dragon. If this dragon were as the weapon spirit of this sword, it is difficult to exert its full power. Zhang Yun was not surprised when he heard this. The immortal master Sky Eye has already given him information. The cloud sky sword is made of cloud iron. This material is suitable for special spiritual beasts like Skylark. No other spiritual beast can perfectly match this sword. If you can't exert your full power, how much power can you exert? Zhang Yun asked. About 70% should be possible. And as a dragon, if this dragon is fused with this sword, it can also have special skills. The young dragon Remnant responded with a hint of arrogance in his tone. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows. 70% of the power of an intermediate spiritual weapon is not bad. After fusion, can you be replaced in the future? He asked again immediately. Okay. Then melt it. Good. As the words fell, the Yuntian sword in front of him suddenly buzzed with a golden light. Within a few seconds, a brand new Yuntian sword appeared in front of Zhang Yun's eyes. The entire sword had an extra layer of gold rim. Dragon Soul Cloud Sky Sword. Level: Intermediate Spiritual Weapon. Introduction. The remnant spirit of the five-clawed golden dragon hatchling is used as the weapon spirit to temporarily repair the edge of the sword and integrate new combat skills, but the original weapon skills of the sword body cannot be activated. Instrument skills. Point 1. The roar of the golden dragon. The sound of the sword's roar turns into the roar of a dragon, which can release the dragon's power that makes all beasts tremble. 2. Golden dragon follows. Briefly releases the remnant spirit of the five-clawed golden dragon hatchling to assist in combat. 2 weapon skills. Zhang Yun's eyes lit up. It is indeed the remnant spirit of a true dragon. It can be attached to a sword as a weapon spirit, and it can actually give birth to 2 weapon skills. Many high-level spiritual weapons only have 1 weapon skill. He tried swinging it twice, and when the sword edge passed by, the air was cut with broken marks visible to the naked eye. Zhang Yun nodded slightly. Although it is not an intermediate spiritual weapon in its complete form, this sword with 70% power is enough. With the current sharpness of the sword, he estimated that the defense of the Yuanying stage monks would become as brittle as tofu in front of him. Can you still talk? Zhang Yun glanced at the sword body, and he could feel the breath of the remnant spirit of the young dragon inside at this moment. Sure. The childish voice of the young dragon residual spirit came out, but this dragon is a little tired and needs to take a nap. When you fight, put spiritual energy into the sword, and this dragon will wake up. After saying this, Zhang Yun felt that the other party's aura had disappeared, and he obviously began to fall asleep inside the sword. Shaking his head slightly, he danced the Yuntian sword a few more times to feel the edge, and then put it away with satisfaction. At the same time, he walked out of the house and came to the courtyard outside. At this moment, Su Ming and the others had selected the pebbles and cut them. Master, I cut out a piece of top-quality purple jade. Seeing him coming out, Wu Xiaopeng immediately held a palm-sized, crystal-clear purple jade in front of him like a treasure. Zhang Yun smiled. You're lucky. This top-quality purple jade is worth at least 3,000 to 4,000 spiritual stones. Wu Xiaopeng's face was full of surprise when he heard this, but at the same time he was a little embarrassed. Master, do you really give us such a precious thing? You should take your waste back, right? What to charge? Zhang Yun directly slapped his forehead and gave him a snap of his fingers, saying, whatever I choose will be yours. Of course, if you insist on giving it back to me, then I won't mind keeping it, he said and looked at Ziyu. No, master, I'd better keep it myself. Wu Xiaopeng quickly hugged Ziyu tightly. Zhang Yun laughed and shook his head, collecting the remaining pebbles on the ground. He said, okay, the sect competition is in 3 days, so prepare well. Yes, master. Su Ming and the others nodded. Shu'er, come here. Zhang Yun waved. Yu Shu'er was startled and quickly followed. Arriving at the house, Zhang Yun handed her the previous piece of crystal shark jade. Take advantage of these last 3 days to absorb and refine this crystal shark jade. It can purify your water aura. Purify spiritual energy. Yu Shu'er's expression was shocked and she opened her mouth. Master. But as soon as she opened her mouth, Zhang Yun waved his hand to interrupt. Don't say anything unnecessary, take it back and practice hard. Since you have accepted me as your teacher will be responsible for your cultivation resources. Yu Shu'er immediately said nothing more and just nodded heavily to Zhang Yun. Although she has lived on the bottom of the sea all year round, she also knows how precious this kind of thing that can purify spiritual energy is, and her feelings for Zhang Yun can no longer be increased at this moment. Taking Zhang Yun as her teacher may be the most correct choice in her life. Night falls and the stars are shining, a spiritual lamp was turned on in the room, and Zhang Yun sat cross-legged on the bed in front of the window and quietly adjusted his breathing. After traveling to this continent, he has become accustomed to adjusting his breath in the middle of the night. This feeling of spiritual energy flowing through the whole body is like a massage, especially when blowing the evening style. Suddenly sensing something, he suddenly opened his eyes and looked outside the courtyard. I saw an inexplicable figure in black appearing there, and he slapped Yun number 1 in front of him. Zhang Yun immediately condensed and jumped out of the window and rushed over. When the figure in black saw him, he immediately turned around and ran away. Zhang Yun frowned slightly and told Yun number 1, "Guard this place well, chase out quickly." The figure who escaped was extremely fast and was obviously very familiar with the surrounding buildings. Zhang Yun rushed out of the yard to pursue him at full speed, but was still somewhat distanced by the opponent. Seeing that he was about to chase him, Zhang Yun took out his command brush and wrote the word speed. His body shook, and the wind beneath his feet turned into a bolt of lightning that shot forward quickly under the night sky. "Comparing speed with me? You're too young." The figure in front saw Zhang Yun being pulled away by him and was sneering secretly. But the next second he saw Zhang Yun suddenly accelerating and shooting like lightning. The figure's expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly accelerated forward, but Zhang Yun's speed at this moment was as fast as a ghost, and the distance he had opened was reduced to a few meters in a few seconds. Zhang Yun put his 2 fingers together, and pointed forward with a wisp of spiritual energy lingering on his fingertips. "Call out." A flying sword from the storage ring was pointed straight at the figure in front of him. The figure in front changed his face when he saw this, and had to jump to dodge. The moment the opponent jumped up, Zhang Yun already held the Yuntian sword in his hand. A burst of spiritual energy poured into the sword body and directly cut through the air, sending out a wave of sword energy that swept across the air. The figure who jumped into the air did not expect him to have such a hand. His expression changed drastically, and he quickly grabbed a long knife with a crossbar. Click. However, the long sword broke directly under the sword energy wave, and the figure in the air only had time to turn slightly sideways before being swept by the sword energy wave. With a cry of pain, half of the figure's face and one ear were directly cut off by the sword energy wave, and the whole body fell from the air uncontrollably. Zhang Yun stepped on the wind like a bolt of lightning and shot straight forward. He raised the sky sword in his hand and slashed at the opponent mercilessly. Sneak into his yard in the middle of the night. No matter who the opponent is, he has a reason to kill him. Call out. Just when he was about to hit the target, an extremely sharp aura suddenly came from one side. Kang. His face changed slightly, and Zhang Yun had no choice but to block a sharp arrow shot from the side with his sword. The sharp arrow contained a lot of spiritual energy, and Zhang Yun used some strength to chop it down. Whoosh. Just as he cut down the sharp arrow, the figure in black in front of him was hugged by another man in black and fled away. Any accomplices? Zhang Yun frowned, and immediately opened his Qingyuan step at full speed, commanding the brush to turn into a bolt of lightning at full speed and chase forward. In less than 2 seconds, the distance between the opponent and the opponent was shortened. How can it be that when the man in black escaped with his figure, seeing Zhang Yun so fast, a trace of disbelief flashed in his eyes, but when he saw that the beach was ahead, he looked happy, gritted his teeth and rushed forward at a faster speed. Brush. But Zhang Yun didn't give the opponent time to rush to the beach. Return energy surged into the Yuntian sword in his hand, and another wave of sword energy swept forward. The man in black's expression suddenly changed, and he had no time to hide, so he could only take out a long bow and use it as a shield in front of him. Boom. However, in the face of this sword energy wave, the long bow was neatly cut off in an instant, and the right hand of the man in black in the sea who was holding the bow was also cut off. The man in black shouted in pain. Zhang Yun was about to take advantage of his victory to pursue the attack, when a shocking threat suddenly came from behind him, causing his expression to change, and he quickly turned around to block with his sword. I saw a black spear piercing the blade of his sword. The terrifying energy carried by the spear exploded with a bang. Even Zhang Yun was unable to stand still and was shaken away. Flew all the way back to the beach and stumbled into the sand. looking at another man in black appearing with a black gun, his pupils shrank. Nascent Soul Stage. Chapter 90, I may need some tonic. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The other party was none other than the middle-aged man in Chinese robes who showed him a batch of pebbles during the day. Why are you here? Zhang Yun frowned. Fellow Taoist, I'm just passing by, the middle-aged man in Hua Pao explained quickly. I was just walking on the beach to enjoy the sea breeze. But as I was walking, I found that my fellow Taoist and the previous people were fighting here, so I hid out of fear. Then why did you run away just now? Zhang Yun asked. Aren't you afraid that fellow Taoists will misunderstand you? The middle-aged man in Hua Pao smiled bitterly. In addition, my fellow Taoist was directly hit by the sword energy wave just now, and I was a little scared. Really? Zhang Yun looked at each other with a half-smile, middle-aged in Chinese robes, realm, peak of golden elixir stage, physique, top-grade water spirit root body, physical talent, water beast taming, naturally close to water-attributed spiritual beasts, in order to conquer and control water-attributed spiritual beasts. The number of spiritual beasts currently controlled, 3, including a golden elixir stage peak beast king, kung fu and combat skills practiced, water control technique, river finger, weaknesses, weak physique, not good at close combat. A cultivator at the peak of the golden core stage was walking on the beach in the middle of the night, and happened to come to the place where he fought with several men in black. If Zhang Yun believed it, he would be a fool. Seeing his unbelieving look, the middle-aged man in Hua Pao suddenly said aggrievedly, Fellow Taoist, I'm really just passing by. As he spoke, he suddenly raised 2 fingers. I can swear with my Taoist heart that I and the previous ones in black are definitely not in the same group. Zhang Yun was surprised to see him making this oath. Is it really a misunderstanding? Thinking about it, it seems to be true. The other party has no grievances against him. If he insists on telling him, it may be because he helped the other party see the batch of pebbles and the other party wants to kill people and silence them. But just for this, a Nascent Soul Stage was dispatched. Somewhat unreasonable. But this only shows that the other party is not the same group as the previous people. Looking at the middle-aged man in Chinese robes in front of him, Zhang Yun still didn't believe that he would walk to this beach for no reason. Then he said calmly, I want to know your identity. This. The middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe hesitated. Zhang Yun directly raised the Yuntian sword. The middle-aged man in Hua Pao was startled and said quickly, Jade Tower. I am the director of Yushi Tower, Deng Yushuan. Jade Stone Tower. We are a force with the nature of a chamber of commerce, operating in the area near the Blue Sea, with the main business of purchasing and selling pebbles. Deng Yushuan explained, the batch of pebbles that I showed fellow Taoists before is the batch of pebbles that we are planning to purchase recently. Zhang Yun frowned slightly. He had never heard of Jade Stone Tower and could not verify whether what the other party said was true or false. After thinking for a while, he spoke. No matter what the reason is for you here, since I have discovered it, you have an ulterior motive. I do not. Deng Yushuan wanted to refute. Zhang Yun glared at him directly. I said you have it, you have it. Deng Yushuan. I don't care what your specific purpose is. Since you've been discovered by me, just keep a share of the money to buy your life. Zhang Yun looked at him calmly. How many spiritual stones do you think your life is worth? This. Deng Yushuan opened his mouth. It seems like you don't know anymore. In that case. Zhang Yun directly raised his sword. Deng Yushuan's face suddenly turned pale, and he shouted quickly, 100,000. I will pay 100,000 spiritual stones to buy my life. Too little. Zhang Yun glanced at him and said calmly, one price, 300,000 spiritual stones. 300,000. Deng Yushuan's eyes widened, but when he saw Zhang Yun raising his sword and about to cut it down, he quickly agreed, I will pay. I will pay 300,000. Zhang Yun then put away his sword with satisfaction, tapped the opponent's body, unlocked part of the opponent's spiritual energy, and then stretched out his hand. Deng Yushuan's mouth twitched and he took out 2 storage rings. Zhang Yun took it, glanced at it, looked at the other party and said, there doesn't seem to be 300,000 here, right? I don't have so many spiritual stones with me. Deng Yuxuan said, taking out another storage ring. The rest, use the treasures inside to offset it. Zhang Yun took it and glanced at it, nodded with satisfaction, and couldn't help but glance at the other party. He can easily take out 300,000 spiritual stones, and the other party probably has more good things on him. But he didn't take action. After all, he is not a robber, and he is also an honest person. He immediately stretched out his hand to unlock the other party's body, and suddenly. Oops, seeing Zhang Yun suddenly showing pain, Deng Yuxuan looked confused. What's wrong with you? Oops, the spiritual energy is a bit overused. Zhang Yun tried his best to squeeze out a trace of paleness on his face and look weak. I don't have enough spiritual energy to help you unblock it. Deng Yuxuan couldn't help but have black lines in his head after hearing this. You are a liar. It was fine 1 second, but this second you're telling me that I don't have enough spiritual energy? How can you regain your spiritual energy? After taking a breath, Deng Yuxuan asked. This. Zhang Yun covered his chest. You may need some big tonic to recover. The corner of Deng Yuxuan's mouth twitched, and he gritted his teeth and took out another storage ring. Can you look at the tonic inside? Zhang Yun took it and checked it. There were several high-grade elixirs inside. He shook his head directly. Not enough. I need to absorb at least hundreds of this elixir before I can recover. Holding back the urge to twitch desperately, Deng Yuxuan took out another storage ring. I really only have so much on me. Zhang Yun checked the results and found more than a dozen high-grade elixirs, 2 bottles of elixirs and a valuable piece of spiritual jade. Although I can't fully recover, I can recover a little bit, which is barely enough. With that said, Zhang Yun took the storage ring and turned around as if he were eating. He looked like he had eaten something and then turned around. The paleness on his face disappeared immediately, and he looked at Deng Yuxuan with a smile again. Thanks to you, I have recovered a lot. Deng Yuxuan really wanted to kill someone, but he still managed to squeeze out a smile. Please help me unblock it, fellow Taoist. Okay, Zhang Yun said, and immediately unlocked the other party's body and said, you are free. Deng Yuxuan felt that the spiritual energy in his body was flowing smoothly, and without saying a word, he turned around and turned into a stream of light to escape. Why are you running so fast? We can chat. It's such a beautiful night and we're on the beach. Zhang Yun couldn't help but speak from afar. Deng Yuxuan suddenly ran faster. Who the hell wants to chat with you? Seeing the other party's back gradually receding, the smile on Zhang Yun's face faded and his eyes narrowed into a slit. If you say there is nothing wrong with this person, he doesn't believe it. But rather than killing him directly, he wanted to know the other party's purpose. Feeling the breath disappearing away, Zhang Yun's mouth curved. At the same time, he looked at the several storage rings in his hands and couldn't help but click his tongue. He just mentioned 300,000 spirit stones, but he didn't expect that the other party would actually give it to him. Then he took out this batch of elixirs, which were worth at least nearly 100,000 spiritual stones. He took out nearly 400,000 spirit stones at once. These people from the Chamber of Commerce are so rich. It just so happens that I can help him, who is running out of spiritual stones now. Zhang Yun went directly back to the courtyard area without staying at the beach. Are you okay? As soon as I came back, I heard a message from the leader of Lingxian's sect. Zhang Yun was startled. I only heard the other party continue to explain through the voice transmission. I was just confused by someone using a special item. When I found that your breath was gone. I just saw you back now. Zhang Yun was stunned. Others may not be able to feel the movement just now, but as someone who has transcended the Nascent Soul Stage, there is no reason why the other party cannot feel it. It turned out that the perception was blocked. In other words, the men in black had arranged all this in advance. He became more and more certain that this matter was related to Nanhai sect. After all, if you want to confuse the master of Lingxian's sect without knowing it, the people of Nanshan sect don't have this ability yet. Only a local snake like Nanhai sect could do it. Metropolitan. Zhang Yun immediately recounted what had just happened. Did you heard that Nascent Soul Stage? The leader of the Lingxian sect interrupted him mid-hearing, with a somewhat shocked tone. Yes, sect master. Zhang Yun nodded and said, but that guy just suffered a little injury to his nascent soul and vomited blood. I'm not sure how serious the injury is. The corner of the Lingxian sect leader's mouth twitched as he sat in the courtyard. Damn it, you, a guy who has just broken through the golden elixir stage, are you going to go to heaven? A nascent soul in the nascent soul stage was injected and he vomited blood. However, thinking of the scene when Zhang Yun broke through the golden elixir, he remained silent for a moment. Seeing that he remained silent, Zhang Yun continued to describe the subsequent situation, only concealing the process of blackmailing Deng Yuxuan. After all, such a glorious deed must be kept as a secret for oneself to treasure. Jade Tower. When the leader of the Lingxian sect heard this name, he asked, how come you are involved with the people of Yeshalu? Seeing that the sect master seemed to know Yeshalu, Zhang Yun immediately told Deng Yuxuan what happened during the day. After hearing this, the leader of the Lingxian sect fell silent for a moment and said, you must have been plotted. Plan? Zhang Yun was confused. The head of the Lingxian sect said, this Jade Stone Tower is the property of the Jade Pirates Group. The Jade Pirates Group is the mortal enemy of the Nanhai sect. You just refused the Nanhai sect's invitation and went to the Jade Stone restaurant. You said, what does the Nanhai sect think? Zhang Yun's eyes focused. He didn't understand the forces in the Blue Ocean area, and he really didn't expect such a thing. Thinking about it now, no wonder Deng Yuxuan was so happy when he was given 20,000 spiritual stones. These 20,000 spirit stones are really not that easy to earn. Because if the other party is the enemy of Nanhai sect, then the purpose of the other parties doing this is also easy to understand. Provoke a conflict between their Lingxian sect and Nanhai sect. After all, if he dies, the leader of the Lingxian sect will definitely seek an explanation from the Nanhai sect, even if it is for the sake of face. Thinking of this, Zhang Yun felt the distant aura spreading across his face. Fortunately, he saved a hand, otherwise it would be a big loss if Deng Yuxuan ran away like this. I understand this matter, and I will go to Nanhai sect to ask for an explanation. The leader of Lingxian sect suddenly said, there is one more thing. Zhang Yun was confused. I have asked someone to investigate the matter between Meng Zhong and the Lin family. If you want to deal with Meng Zhong, I will not interfere too much. But there is only one request. The leader of the Lingxian sect said, we will resolve this issue after the sect competition. Hearing this, Zhang Yun fell silent for a moment and nodded to the courtyard where the other party was. I understand, sect master. After saying that, he returned to his yard. Master, are you okay? In the yard, Su Ming and the three of them were pacing back and forth waiting for him. When they saw him coming back, they immediately greeted him with concern. Fine. Zhang Yun waved his hand, it's just a little thief, my teacher has already dealt with it. Su Ming and the others were relieved when they heard this. Okay, let's all go back and rest. Zhang Yun said this and returned to his room. Seeing this, Su Ming and the other two went back to their houses respectively, but their fists under their sleeves and robes could not help but be clenched as they walked away. Strength. Their strength is still too weak. If they have enough strength, they can help their master tonight. Although Zhang Yun said it easily, after coming back after such a long time, they knew that Zhang Yun's solution must not be that simple.